You see, you're a practical person, and you know there aren't a huge number of people that
I can imagine.
you know. Because I'd be very interested to hear how you, as a sculptor and a practical person, you would go about if you were to be tasked with doing that in the field. What would your approach be?
I looked at it, and when I walked in with an open mind, and I looked at it and thought, okay, how would I do it? And I thought, even if I went in one direction, it doesn't work, because then the other lines come across. And for you take an example, is when you have the very, very thin corn just standing on its own. I mean, to get it coming in from about a foot, solid chunk, I mean, to keep it that exact would be practically impossible. And yet it's perfectly flat either side. And sculpture, you get these wedges. I mean, carving something, you know, is difficult enough. But you imagine the way that the machine has sewn it is in lines, but these lines are going across at an angle.
Yeah.
So not only, so you can't just say, oh, well, someone's just followed the way the drill has worked, and the tractor's pulled the drill,
yes.
and it's grown that way, and you put a pattern in. No, you've got to take that idea, that doesn't work, that's out of your head completely.
Yes.
So then you've got to look at it and say, okay, taking that out, how would you do it so you could keep exactly right on that angle and turn and keep that shape? And bearing in mind, you can't even look at it from above.
Yeah, got no reference. You can't.
No reference.
No.
So I don't see how you can do it. I mean, you know, something has to come from somewhere, because there's no way you can draw that on the ground. You couldn't put a stencil out, and you couldn't say, I've got some MDF board and I'm going to mark it out with pegs, and then I'm going to work from that peg to peg. So do a template and say, okay, I'm going to take this enormous template, so I'm going to, but it doesn't work to that effect, because it's all those two outer bands. The way one works with inside the other,
yes.
And then the star shape comes off it. Well, you couldn't do that, because you just couldn't measure it out. I mean, how would you know that the diameter of your band is correct for your star to work? I mean, there's too many things that just don't add up. If I was drawing it on a piece of paper with a ruler and measuring it, you know, even trying to replicate that on a mural, say, you know, taking it on a piece of saying, right, okay, let's try and draw it back out on a wall. It's still difficult to get it exact. You know, after seeing it now and walking it, I now know there's one band within another band, and that space there is a similar space to the size of the chunks there. So there's a few things that do seem to sort of work out. But even taking that as being rough geometry, it still doesn't give you the answer of how someone did it, or how it happened. It's just mind blowing. The other really interesting thing is I found when I walked in there, I didn't have a headache.
Oh, have you got a headache?
But I've come out and I've got a headache. It got worse when I came to the outer tram line.
Yes.
And I feel like, head was pounding. I'm okay now. Here, I feel fine. But in there, on the outside, as I was walking out, I could feel it's like a barometer. You know, when the barometer changes on the weather, and you know, you get that sort of. And yet, it's not that kind of day to day. It's not that close. It's a normal summer's day. So there's no. But in there's definitely an energy of something. There's definitely something. And you walk around it, it's amazing. And you touch the corn, and it's perfect. The ears of wheat are untouched. They are, you know, you'd expect them to be crushed. You'd expect them to be damaged. They're not. They're perfect. Extraordinary.
So there you'll be telling your friends about this then?
I've already told one.
Have you?
Bringing his kids, because I'd probably bring mine. I mean, you know, it's extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. I'm amazed, absolutely amazed. I definitely would like to see another.
Well, thank you very much. That's very, very useful, and I may, if with your permission, I would like to use some of that footage on my video.
Please do.
Thank you.
Yeah.